Hey everyone, welcome into our first Hot Stove show of the 2025 season. Hope everybody had a happy holiday and a happy new year. We are broadcasting live from the Audacy Showroom inside the 105.3 The Fan studio building. Going to be joined by Marcus Semien and Cody Bradford coming up in about 15 minutes. There was a line that extended well out the door for the autograph portion of tonight's caravan event, the first caravan event of the offseason. You can go to the Rangers website to check out the other stops. And much like tonight, a lot of those stops will also include the World Series trophies. So if you did not get a chance to see the World Series trophy last offseason, get a picture with it, or maybe you did and you just want to see it again, most of the stops, like tonight's, will include the World Series trophy. If you're in the area, you probably aren't going to be able to get here in time to get an autograph, but we are doing the show over the next hour with a live audience, and would love for you to stop on by and come hang out and join Marcus, Cody, and me as we talk some Rangers baseball. People are still funneling through the autograph line. We are going to do a live Q&A, though, this segment. So for those of you who are in the seating area, I got Ruben raising his hand over there. So in a couple minutes, we will open things up and talk off-season. Shout out to Ruben. We got Carter in the back handling the video. James upstairs running the board and making sure that no one is breaking any of the autograph rules. Blake Miller is standing in between Marcus and Cody. And if you do anything wrong, if you violate any of the rules, Blake will arrest you. And I think it's a Class C felony. I don't even know what that means. Is that accurate? There's third-degree felony, yeah. So don't violate any of the rules. Quickly, though, before we start the Q&A side of things, just want to remind everyone the awards dinner is this Friday, the Rangers Awards dinner, and then on Saturday is Fan Fest over at Globe Life Field from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Tickets are available, $20 for adults, $10 for kids 14 and under. There are going to be a bunch of Q&A sessions with players, coaches, and Rangers alums. There will be autograph sessions with players and alums. You can run the bases. You can visit the baseball card show and much more. Go to rangers.com/fanfest for tickets. And then for those of you who are in the showroom, who are hearing this, I've got 5 goodie bags to my right. And during the commercial break, we'll do some Rangers trivia. The goodie bags include ticket vouchers, bobbleheads, the Rangers World Series DVD, the World Series replica giveaway jersey, and a few more items. And so we'll do that during the commercial break. There really isn't a ton of Rangers news that has materialized over the last, week or so. But the big baseball news today, which did involve the Rangers, is that Roki Sasaki is not going to be a Ranger. So it seems like it is down to the Blue Jays, the Dodgers, and the Padres. But the Yankees, the Mets, the Rangers were all informed today, the Giants as well, that Roki Sasaki will not be signing. And I don't know if that's a huge surprise for folks. Maybe there was some wishful thinking. People were trying to will it into existence. But it seemed like the Rangers were obviously a candidate. I mean, he was meeting with only a few teams. The Rangers were one of them. But I don't know that the Rangers were ever really thought to be the odds-on favorites. And they will not sign Roki Sasaki. It does not appear. All right, so anyone have questions here in our live audience, feel free to raise your hand. If not, that's okay. We still have a lot of people funneling through the autograph lines. But any questions, any Rangers questions, going to do a live Q&A. Don't be shy. Might even do a goodie bag for the first person because I know sometimes it's tough to be the first. Anyone? No one. I'll go to. Okay, we got one right here.
Closer situation.
The closer situation. Well, what's your name? Ramiro. You remember Ramiro Mendoza? Was a really good pitcher for the Yankees in the 90s. Yeah, he's unfortunately not going to be available. I don't know. That's a good question. I do think that the Rangers they've obviously done a lot for the bullpen this offseason. Signing, whether it's Sean Armstrong, who certainly wasn't a big headline acquisition. Robert Garcia trading for him. The moves they made, recently getting Chris Martin. They've done a lot. I think they've added 5, maybe, depending on roster decisions, 6 guys outside the organization who could be on the opening day roster in the bullpen, but they don't have a guy who's a bona fide closer. I don't know what's going to happen, right? There's a chance that they go to camp and that box hasn't been checked. I don't think that it's their intention for that to be the case. I do think that the intention is to sign someone with closer chops. Now, who could that be? I think the first name that comes to mind for a lot of people is Kirby Yates. Kirby Yates had really one of the best seasons in franchise history as a reliever last year. It was remarkable what Kirby did. Why has he not signed? You know, it'd be one thing if a lot of other closer types had signed and Kirby was on an island, but really a lot of these guys haven't. Kenley Jansen hasn't signed. Tanner Scott hasn't signed, and Tanner Scott's probably the guy who will get the most money in free agency. And so I don't know if it's a situation where people are waiting for Tanner Scott to sign, and then that will kind of determine the market. You know, I think with Kirby, it's interesting because, you know, look, I'm pulling up his career innings. He has only thrown in his career 411 innings, which for a 37-year-old who's a multi-time All-Star, that's low. And I think there's a lot of thought that, you know, that bell curve, that Mother Nature bell curve for an athlete doesn't really necessarily apply to pitchers, because a lot of these guys spend their 20s not pitching because they're hurt. And so maybe there's a discrepancy in value. Maybe there are people who are using his age against him, whereas he's saying, no, I was an all-star closer last year. You're going to pay me like an all-star closer. So I think Kirby Yates is the guy who probably would be the odds-on favorite still. I think that there's interest from the Rangers. But, yeah, I do think they need a closer, and I think that they know that that's something they want to pursue. All right, going to the back there, Ruben. Ramiro, thanks for kicking it off.
Hey, hey, Jared, how you doing?
How's it going? What's your name?
Swavey, Dave Swavey.
Oh, hey, Dave. Sorry,
hey.
I can't see you with the lights.
So without that phenomenon being signed, and I know you know the depth, what are we looking at on the international players that are going to be signed here in a couple of weeks?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, Dave. I could sit up here and tell you and try to sound smart and act like I've watched these guys. I haven't. I don't know. What I can tell you is that, that's been an area of strength, I think, for this organization. And, so without going into all the details of the signing process for Roki Sasaki, the team that signs him has given up their entire pool, and so they can only then sign players for $100,000. The bonus can only be $100,000, and so the teams that don't sign him, not going to act like they're better off, but or potentially, we don't know, but there is now the flexibility to sign multiple guys, and I'm assuming the Rangers plan on being very active in that regard. They do. They've always, even in some of the down years in the latter part of this most recent decade, the 2010s, they still, whether guys panned out or not, they were still able to recruit and sign high talent, highly sought after players, and I don't anticipate things changing. That's been a real area of strength. What's that? Now you're going. I mean, you're going back years and years before I was born. But yes, Pudge and Juan, and that was a different time, though. That it wasn't as, not every organization had academies, and it's a lot more competitive now. It's a lot tougher to, the Gerson Garabitos of the world who just, they end up being semi-pro players, and they find that you don't have that nearly as much nowadays. I feel like there used to be more Wild Wild West stories back in the 70s and 80s and 90s because guys could slip through the cracks. Ruben, let's go here.
Hey, excuse me. We're live, right?
We are live.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to give a shout out to all the people in the Rangers fan base and the Dallas sports fan base. Over Discord I'm in. If you've blocked me right now, please unblock me. My name is G.H. Morello, or Epic Baseball Channel, but please unblock me and refriend me. But anyway, I just had to give a shout out away. But my question is, with all the, let's talk about the batters in the free agency right now. Right now, the biggest bats, Alonso and Bregman. Do you think Alex Bregman may face a scenario similar to Carlos Correa a few years back, in which, oh, this guy was on the cheating Astros. He's not going to be sorry. We're not going to sign him. And he has to, wait until spring training to get him back. Do you feel like history will repeat itself for Bregman? And do you feel like it could, impact other free agents like Santander or Alonso, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't think that's getting in the way of the Bregman signing or Alonso. I think with Alonso, he wants to be a Met, and because he wants to be a Met and has made it very clear he wants to be a Met, he doesn't have the leverage to negotiate the type of deal that he wants with the Mets. And maybe he signs one of those 3-year deals with opt-outs after each of the first 2 years. I'd be surprised if Alonso doesn't end up a Met, or at least that seems to be the way things are going now. With Bregman, there are a lot more things in play. He could be a Tiger with the A.J. Hinch connection. The Red Sox seem to have an interest there and could maybe move Alex Bregman around because third base right now is occupied. But that would give them a really good infield. There's some thought that maybe if the Phillies trade Alec Boehm, that the Phillies would be interested in Alex Bregman. I don't know why that has slowed, because it did seem like during the winter meetings there was a lot of momentum towards a deal. I don't think it has to do with his ties to the Astros, in part because the two teams favored to be signing him are teams led by members of the organization at that time, A.J. Hinch and Alex Cora. So I don't think that has to do with it. I think with Bregman, it's just a matter of, again, he feels like he's worth a number, and he's, I guess, not getting that number out in the market. And with Bregman, it might be because the numbers maybe don't point towards the $200 million number he wants, but some of the intangibles, which we've heard from Astros folks for years, was such a big part of why they were what they were, who they were. It's tough to quantify the intangibles, and let's just call a spade a spade. A GM's job is to sign the best players that he can for as little money as possible, right? And so sometimes there's a gap in that value. All right, we've got time for a couple more questions, and we'll be joined by Marcus Semien and Cody Bradford here on this very first episode of Rangers Hot Stove this offseason. Just a reminder, we will be back on our normal Thursday schedule starting next week, so that'll be Thursday the 23rd, and then we'll do that for about 4 weeks, and then once the spring training action starts in Surprise, we will move our show to Sundays after the game. So hope you'll start joining us here on Thursdays until spring training action starts, and then we will piggyback off of Cactus League games after that.
Hey, Stan here.
Stan?
Yes.
Hey, Stan.
Hey. Nate Lowe leaves. We have Jake Berger, Joc Pederson in, Evan Carter, hopefully coming back. Seems like the outfield, first base, getting a little bit crowded. How do you picture the lineup looking, like left hand versus right hand?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Evan Carter, and I think one of the most disappointing things last year, just from an individual standpoint, is we didn't get a full year for Evan to get the reps against lefties and to really, take his lumps and show an ability to adjust, and even against righties as well, right? It just was such an abbreviated year for him, and then he was clearly trying to play through the back stuff, and how much was that impacting him? I think that the answer to the question of, is he a platoon guy or not, will very much impact that. Joc's going to be in the lineup anytime a righty's there, and then when a lefty starts, he'll probably, come off the bench later, right? I don't know that Joc, with the current roster construction, will start much against lefties or at all. Jake Berger, I think, is a guy you could see in the lineup against both lefties and righties. And all this stuff, right, is assuming health, and let's just say everyone's healthy. But I think Evan Carter's the real wild card, because we know what he can do against righties, and a lot of the things that make him as good as he is, which is the mind and the eye, would suggest that the tools are there for him to not be a platoon player. Now, will he have the same skill set against righties that he does against lefties? Probably not, right? I'd imagine, against lefties, I could see him being more of a low-contact, high-walk, high-power guy, just kind of be a little more aggressive, where against righties it might be more of what we saw throughout that run in 2023. But I think that's the big question: is Evan Carter going to find himself in the lineup against lefties? And if not, well, Leody Taveras hasn't really shown that he can be that guy against lefties, and so what is that a Joc not DHing and being in the outfield type situation? Well, no, because again, you're not starting him against lefties. Is that an opportunity for Ezekiel Duran? That if Ezekiel Duran is on the roster, that's where he's got to earn his roster spot, is being in the lineup against lefties, and then maybe parlaying that into more. So I think it all starts with Evan Carter though, and what you get out of him, against both sides, lefties and righties. All right, I think we got time. One quick one, and then we will be joined by Marcus Semien and Cody Bradford after a little break.
Hi, Jared. Brendan here.
Hey, Brendan.
I just had a question. What is whether it be on the batting side or the pitching side, what is a player on the roster that may go under the radar to most fans that may have a big-time performance this season?
Well, I think one guy's sitting 2 seats to my left, because I don't know why people aren't just writing Cody Bradford's name into the rotation in Sharpie. I do think, though, that there are a couple guys, Emiliano Teodo, Winston Santos, some young pitchers who, even if it's not right away, could have an impact in the bullpen. The Rangers late last year acquired Walt Pennington. Don't know in what role, but I just don't know that a lot of people are thinking, hey, Walt Pennington's going to have a big role in the bullpen. But every year, every team, no matter if they're a playoff team or not, has a guy or two or three who kind of come out of nowhere and have a big impact in the bullpen. I mean, Kirby Yates wasn't a no-name by any means. I don't know if anyone knew Kirby Yates was going to have an ERA that started with a 0 for most of the year. And David Robertson and Kirby Yates combining in the 8th and 9th the way they did. So I think of some of those young guys as guys who could make a big impact. And, from a position player side, he's not a no-name. I'm really excited to see what Wyatt Langford's going to do. And I don't know if people are prepared for the type of jump that, a guy like him can make from year 1 to year 2. Welcome back to Rangers Hot Stove, broadcasting inside the Audacy Showroom. Joined right now by Marcus Semien and Cody Bradford. Jared Sandler, happy to be with you with a live audience. How about a big round of applause for all of you for showing up here on this Monday night? Yeah, we were supposed to do it on Thursday, but apparently there was snow, and that got in the way of things. Did you guys build snowmen, Marcus, with the kids?
My wife did.
There you go. That's my bad.
My
I
wife
turn
did with the kids. I watched. I took video, but
Yeah.
I didn't want my hands all cold.
Do you
and stuff.
don't like the snow?
I didn't mind it. If it's not ice, I'm fine. Snow is good.
Cody?
We didn't get any snow down in Midlothian.
No snow at all?
No snow.
Oh, that stinks.
A little bit of sleet, and that was it.
Okay, so no snowmen for the Bradfords.
Nothing.
Okay. Guys, I know the offseason didn't just end with tonight. You guys have been, working hard, pretty much probably from the end of 162. But it seems like tonight's kind of the beginning of that runway to spring training. A lot of events, Fan Fest coming up this weekend. How excited are you guys to get back at it after 2024, which I know didn't end the way that either of you guys wanted? Marcus, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I'm really excited. We have a good group at the stadium who trains, and the group is getting bigger and bigger. When we have things like Fan Fest going on, you get to see everybody, and it feels like season when everybody's in there training. So I get really excited. The month before spring training, just ramping up the workouts, and I can't wait.
Cody?
Yeah, it's fun to do events like this and things around the stadium with fans, because it starts getting you ready for the season. Just gets you excited. So it's fun to do things like this.
So I want to ask about what your off season typically looks like. And Cody, I'll start with you. I remember the day of the World Series parade, we were talking, and I think that night you flew out to North Carolina to begin your off-season program at a facility over in North Carolina. So you wasted no time. But what does an off-season look like for you typically?
Yeah, I think typically, like this year coming off, I was banged up earlier in the year, so my body needed some time to heal. So my wife and I took about a 2-week break and did some traveling, and then we come back at the end of October, and you get in the weight room and you start building strength for the next season.
Marcus, I think if anything, people probably have to keep you from living in the gym and in the cage and whatnot. But what is it like for you? And I guess for you, how is it different now at this point of your career versus maybe 10 years ago? Do you have to do anything differently?
Well, I mean, the difference in 10 years ago is I didn't have 4 kids, that are playing sports now, and I get to coach, So we didn't make the playoffs, unfortunately, but my son's team did, so I got to coach them. Other than that, I wait about a week or two to, just rest and get the body healed up from a long season. And then it's, really just waits for a full month, weights in, hitting the next month, weights, hitting, and throwing, and then spring training. So pretty simple.
When you think back to 2024, what are the things that stood out to you, good and bad?
Well, I think we got off to a decent start. Our durability was, hit or miss. We missed some guys. We missed this guy for a while. We just didn't have the whole team together, when we needed them. Max was banged up. I wish we had the same group as 23, all healthy, because, we were great. We got hot at the right time in 23, and we were going to build momentum into 24. And it didn't happen, but I still think we have the same group pretty much. We lost a couple guys, but there's still the same group that are champions, and we're ready to go in 25.
Cody, you got off to a great start, and Marcus mentioned you got hurt and had to miss a few months. What was that experience like, and especially given that you did get off to such a good start? And I think the start in which your last start before the IL was another really good start in April, and I think potentially April pitcher of the month in baseball. I mean, a great start against the Astros at Globe Life Field, and then you get hurt. I mean, I think to the fan, it's like, oh well, he's just not going to play, and whenever he's back, we'll see him. There's so much that goes into that moment you get hurt to working your way back. And I know for you, it wasn't just a 2-week let's rest and let's come back. That was a pretty arduous process, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you get hurt, obviously it's unfortunate. And this was, fortunately, it was my first time getting hurt since dating all the way back to college in 2019. So prior to that, God's blessed me with good health. But yeah, like you said, there's a lot that goes in from the day you tell somebody, hey, my back hurts. Like, you start getting scans, you start going through the process of trying to figure out, all right, what is it, first of all? And sometimes, like last year, that just took a little bit of time. It was kind of a weird freak injury with a fractured rib on my glove side, and the doc was like, I haven't really seen this before. And anyways, once you figure out what it is, then you got to have some time for a bone injury like that, for the bone to just heal and grow back naturally. And then you just start a build-up progression throwing again. So kind of just trying to find the right time of, do I need to rest or do I need to start building back up, and trying to mesh those together.
How tough is it as an athlete and for you guys to speak up when something doesn't feel right versus, I'm not saying anything, because the minute you say something, the toothpaste is out of the tube, right? You're going to go get this image or this scan, and whatever happens, now it to some degree is out of your control. How do you balance that?
Well, I mean, for me, I think you really just have to understand what's major and what's minor. I think minor things are things you can play through. Obviously, you don't want to make it a bigger problem by hurting something else. But at this point in my career, I played a lot of baseball. I know what you can play through and what you can't. But, yeah, there's definitely times where you think you can play through something major and it's not smart. You never want to see that.
Was it tough? I mean, were you in a position where it's like, hey, I have to say something, it's checkmate, I can't even throw the ball? Or was it like, do I say something, do I not?
No, when you wake up the next morning after a start and you can't get out of bed and you're walking like a 75-year-old that just pulled his back or something, like something's wrong. You can't play through something like that. So it happened in that, it was against Oakland? Was that the but was there a moment where you're like, I think something happened, or was it really just that next morning? The next morning, I woke up just in a weird position in bed, and I rolled over, and I told my wife, I was like, babe, I can't even walk right now, so I think I need to go get this checked out. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
All right, Marcus, I want to ask you about 2024. At your age, with the amount of mileage, playing a premium defensive position, typically, guys, they decline defensively. It just seems like you keep getting better defensively. You're a Gold Glove finalist. To what do you attribute that to? And how much of it is physical versus preparation? scouting reports, knowing what to anticipate when you're playing second?
Well, I mean, it's ironic because when I was young and more athletic, I wasn't as good. So I think the biggest thing is experience. This will be year 11 in the major leagues, and I think 4 maybe 5 at second base. So, I'm starting to learn a lot more even at 34 years old. To me, 34 years old still sounds young. To others, maybe not. But, I'm still getting better, and I feel like there's another level to my defense.
We've talked about this before. Game ends, and, fans will turn off the TV and wait till the next day. But that the post-game routine for some guys is not just let's go shower, eat, and go home. What are the things that you do after a game just to make sure that your body is prepared for the next day and the next day and the next day and so on and so forth?
Yeah, well, post-game, I definitely take about 15 minutes to stretch, just to cool down. Baseball is not necessarily a sport where you're running up and down or, playing football or something like that, but there's just constant, sudden movements where you really want to make sure your body is warm at all times. You want to make sure you stretch after the game. You want to make sure you activate your body before you get in the cage. And just different things I've learned over the years, as opposed to as a young minor leaguer just going in and playing and going home. It's like that's not necessarily smart as you get older. So those are the things I've learned, really when I got to Toronto and definitely here.
When you look back at 2024 at the plate, what are some of the things that stand out to you?
Well, I mean, I felt really good in probably the first 2 months of the year. Definitely didn't have the year I wanted to. Definitely some slumps here and there that I didn't get out of quick enough. But at the end of the day, I stayed healthy. I battled through it, and that's all you can do. There's a lot of pitchers who have a game plan to get me out. It's just about adjusting to their game plan, and that's what I'm ready to do in 25.
Cody, how would you, when you think back to 24, and I know obviously the injury got in the way of things, but when you look back on what you did on the mound, what are some of the things that stand out to you?
I learned how to pitch through a lineup 3 times, which I think was a big deal. A couple starts that I had in 23, kind of bouncing between the bullpen and starting. It was tough. Trying to navigate a big league lineup that third time through, I seemed to just get stuck. And I think last year mixing in an extra pitch, using a curveball a lot, which was, kudos to Mike Maddox for helping me have the confidence to throw that and finding good spots in games to throw that was a big deal. Yeah.
So that was a pitch you used to throw, right, when you were at Baylor?
Mm-hmm.
And then it got away from you after. Was it after the thoracic outlet? Is that when did you stop throwing the curveball, and then what led you to bring that back into the repertoire?
Yeah, coming out of college, I had a TOS surgery, and coming back through that throwing process, your arm slot can change maybe just a little bit. And for whatever reason, a curveball just wasn't a pitch that came back naturally through that rehab process. And so coming back, my first spring training in 2020 was the COVID year, but my curveball was terrible. And so we banged it and went to a slider and never really we touched on it a little bit in 21, and the metrics just weren't there. And so the metrics said it was a bad pitch.
And how much do you lean on that? I mean, 15 years ago, that it just doesn't feel good, or the hitters give you the feedback that you need on certain pitches. But now you can look at the data, the spin rate, all this stuff. How much do you start lean on some of that data to help influence what your game plan is going to be? Obviously, the hitters that you're facing and the scouting reports on them will influence that as well. But just when you think about yourself and what you're doing and evaluating your performance, how much do you look at the data?
I think data can help you learn, what your strengths are and what some of your weaknesses are. And that doesn't mean you have to only pitch to your strengths and forget about your weaknesses or only focus on weaknesses. I think it teaches you who you are as a pitcher or a hitter, and you just learn to play baseball around that and kind of buy into who you are as a player. So for me, I'm going to be a command guy. I'm going to spot my fastball up and use my extension and some other, strengths to my advantage. And I'm not going to try and outspin a guy with my curveball or slider.
When you're on the mound and you see Marcus Semien's name in the lineup, what's that like?
Man, he's our captain. He's 2. He's always there at the top of the lineup and guy we can count on being out there every day and being a leader in the clubhouse and on and off the field. So it's good to have veteran leadership like that for sure.
So we have stats that measure home runs, strikeouts, batting average, ERA, all that, but there aren't stats that measure leadership. And we've heard from when Marcus was with Oakland, the impact he had on those teams. I mean, heck, when we go to Toronto, you see it seems like the entire organization runs over to give Marcus a hug because of the impact he had in such a short time. How would you describe the impact that he has outside the lines in this organization?
Yeah. Well, one, he's good at being intentional to me and a lot of the other younger guys on the team. It makes you feel like you're a big leaguer. I know when I debuted in 2023, Marcus and a couple other guys, you go up, you shake somebody's hand, you're like, hey, I'm Cody, I'm the new guy here, and Marcus and a couple other guys, make you feel like you belong there, and that means a lot from a rookie standpoint.
Who taught you all that stuff, Marcus?
Couple guys. I mean, I think I came up with characters like Adam Dunn, but I also came up with guys like Paul Konerko, a little more serious. Then I got to Oakland, and you have Coco Crisp, Josh Reddick, Billy Butler, Jed Lowry. We didn't have a great year in my first year in Oakland, but we had a really good veteran team with good guys. But as I got older and not a rookie, probably in my 4th or 5th year in Oakland, I really wanted to make sure that guys could feel comfortable even if they're a rookie, because the old school approach is to be hard on the rookie. You're supposed to sit in your locker, don't even look, don't even look around, and then go play baseball. Like, that's not helpful for a guy to try and help us win. So, there are times where you see something that a young guy's doing, you say, hey, maybe, let's do it this way. It's probably better for the team. But, I would rather have somebody feel more comfortable and play well than feel uncomfortable and then we don't win ball games.
I asked Cody what it's like when he's on the mound, he sees your name in the lineup. What have you noticed being in the lineup and standing behind Cody Bradford when, he does his thing?
Well, I mean, he like he said, he knows his strengths. He's got a really good fastball to where, it plays up probably 5 miles an hour. So guys are thinking it's a lefty throwing, 90 miles an hour, and then they're late on 3 fastballs. So it's impressive the way he does it. He works really hard. I'm fortunate enough to train with him in the offseason here, and just seeing everything that goes into, his routine is above and beyond what a starting pitcher does. I'm really looking forward to a healthy season from him. Every time he got the ball when he was healthy, I feel like we had a chance to win, and that's all you can ask for.
We asked a trivia question earlier to the crowd during a commercial break about Cody being a valedictorian. What was your high school GPA?
Ooh, it was not worthy of that. I went to a good college. I got into Cal with the 3.4, but baseball
what's wrong with the 3.4?
Boosted that 3.4 to all the other 4.0 students. So.
Nothing's wrong with the 3.4. All right,
I tried.
We'll take that. All right, we just had some more fun trivia during the break, joined by Marcus Semien, Cody Bradford, Jared Sandler with you. It is Monday, and on Saturday, we've got Rangers Fan Fest at Globe Life Field. Tickets available. Go to rangers.com/fanfest. There are autograph sessions, Q&A sessions. You can run the bases. Will the World Series trophy be there? I assume it will be, right? Yeah, okay. World Series trophy will be there. There's going to be a baseball card show. $20 for adults, $10 for kids 14 and under. Rangers.com/fanfest. All right, Marcus Semien, Cody Bradford. We were just talking about Marcus's ability to score runs. And the trivia question we asked during the break, Marcus is the only player to have accomplished what over the last 5 seasons. And you were, I think, 3 straight years. So I guess that would have been 19, 21, and 22 because we don't count the 2020 season. It was Marcus, Juan Soto, and Freddie Freeman were the only players to have 100 or more runs in those 3 seasons, and you've since separated yourself from those 2. Cody, I'm going to ask you, you're a meticulous person, right? You're note-taking, very diligent. The little things matter. What is it about Marcus as a base runner that stands out to you? Because we said this during the break. There are a lot of guys that play a lot of games. Maybe not to the degree that Marcus does, but there are a lot of guys that play a lot of games, a lot of guys that have talented hitters who hit behind them, a lot of guys who are fast and athletic. But he's the only guy to have done this over 5 straight years. What are some of the separating factors that you notice?
Well, like you said, he runs the bases hard. And I think there's a lot of really good athletes that maybe just are afraid to run the bases hard for fear of injury or for fear of getting thrown out. And so I think you got to be fearless, and you got to know when to take your shots around a base and trying to stretch a double into a triple or a single into a double. And I think Marcus does that really well.
We got a question submitted from Jake Biller, and he wants to know about pitching at Josh Young's wiffle ball event yesterday and how that all went down.
Yeah, Josh Young had an amazing charity event yesterday at the stadium. I think it was supporting the Miracle League in DFW, and he put together a team of a couple of us, and he asked me about a week ago to come throw at it, and I've never thrown a wiffle ball before.
Never?
Didn't know what to expect.
Whoa, never?
I throw a wiffle ball every day to my kids.
I've never thrown
kids, I guess that's
a professional sandpaper rubbed up wiffle ball to a pro wiffle ball hitter, and I couldn't get the ball to go straight. That ball was going everywhere. I couldn't even throw a strike, and the 2 strikes I threw, I think got hit for homers. So it was humbling.
What's your what was your wiffle ball game growing up? Was that a thing you would do with your buddies?
Yeah, we had a tennis ball.
Okay.
So tennis ball. We'd find whatever local field, and we just pitch to each other. And then if you struck them out, you get to throw the ball as hard as you can at the guy. Like that's what we played. So made you not want to strike out.
Yeah, it probably makes a big difference, right? Yeah. Okay, so I want to ask you guys about 2025, and Marcus, I want to start with you asking about Joc Pederson. You've played against him. He's a Northern California guy just like yourself. What do you think Joc's going to bring to the table, and what was your reaction when you found out that he was going to be a part of the mix?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a crazy, I think, 2 days because we just traded Nate Lowe, who had been hitting third for us for a lot of the time I've been here. I've been playing on the right side of the infield with him, so I'm thinking, okay, what lefty is coming? And I knew Joc was out there. I know that him and Corey played together. I played with Joc in Instructs, which is instructional league in the minor league. So we were both 20 and 19 years old, just trying to learn the game. And he was a base stealer back then. He was a center fielder. He's a different player now. He's obviously really tapped into his power, especially against right-handed pitching. So he's a great bat for us. I think he's going to probably he could hit third for us, against righties, which is huge. That's a big pickup anytime you pick up a 3-hitter. So I'm looking forward to his bat and his personality. He's a guy who he is going to be a leader in this clubhouse just based off of how he brings people together. I think his personality is more out there than some of us. We have a lot of guys who may be a little bit more reserved. So just having a guy like that to keep the clubhouse loose is always good.
Yeah, he made sure that personality was on display when he talked about the AL West, which I'm sure you guys saw, the confidence to take control from Houston. But you bring up the personalities in the clubhouse that maybe are different than his, but you got, it's 26 on the active roster, but it's more than that. Guys get hurt, and you don't want all of the same guy, right? Maybe you don't want 26 Joc Pedersons, but you don't want 26 guys who are opposite of that. So to have someone who can add that to the recipe, is that you've been a part of different clubhouses, different groups, guys with a lot of personality. You mentioned your time in Oakland. So having someone like Joc who's not afraid to go out and say, hey, the Astros have had their time. It's our time. You guys all think it. You guys all – there's not a player in this clubhouse who I'm sure, has a different thought. But for someone to have the bravado, the confidence to go out and say it, and that's one example. But how would you explain the dynamics and having a good mix of personalities?
Yeah, he's somebody who has fun. You still want to go out there and have fun as hard as the game is. It gives you perspective when somebody is out there laughing and smiling and, just bringing life to our team. That's what he's going to be. I think that we were missing that last year with guys like Hedges and Will Smith, the lefty pitcher, and just guys who, maybe the fans may not see, but when we travel or when we're, at dinner on the road or just, they put you in a good mood. And that's all you really ask for in a teammate. And, I'm glad we have Joc.
Cody, I want to ask you about a guy who's not new, but hopefully we're going to get a chance to watch him for a full year for the first time in a Rangers uniform. And I think one of the most exciting parts about last year was getting to see Jacob deGrom back on a mound. And I think about it just individually, the journey to go to come back from a serious injury, like having to have Tommy John in for Jacob for the second time. And you guys see this every day, how hard it is. And we talked about this with you dealing with your situation. But how excited are you to get to watch this guy go to work hopefully every 5 days for the next 6 months or so?
Yeah, DeGrom's a special human being. Some people are just born to throw a baseball, and he's definitely one of them. And when he's healthy, he's arguably the best pitcher in the history of the sport. So, like that, he brings a lot to the table, and it's going to be really exciting to see what he can do for us in 2025.
What makes him unique? Like, what are the things that jump out to you?
Well, from a baseball standpoint, like he's got the stuff. He's got great velo. He's got great command. He doesn't walk people, and he's got that bulldog competitor in him. He wants to take the ball. He's not afraid of any hitter. He's going to go right after him. And so every day he steps on the mound, you're getting his A game. And then off the field, like he's a fun guy to be around as well. Maybe a little bit quieter than a guy like Joc, but still a fun guy to get to learn, and he likes hunting and fishing, and so do I. So, I can talk to him all day about that.
Now, a couple young pitchers who I think there is hope and expectation will be big contributors, Jack Leiter and Kumar Rocker. And got to see Kumar come back from Tommy John as well, make his major league debut last year. That was exciting. Jack, pitching last year at the debut in Detroit, and then up and down a few times, and ended the season with the club. And the thing that stands out to me, everyone's trajectory and their growth as a player, it's different. There's not one path, and some guys pop early, some guys have some road bumps early. But what is unquestioned about those two, a lot of talent, right? What did you guys see from Jack and Kumar last year that excites you about them here in 2025?
For me, I think if you look at a lot of, star players, star pitchers, right now, if you go back to year one on their baseball card, it's probably not going to be pretty. Obviously we had Leiter come up. He made a couple starts. You see he throws hard. He's still learning, so everything is a learning experience your first year. I went through it. Cody went through it. We all go through it. And then we got to see Rocker come up in September. First start looked really good. He made a couple good starts, I'm pretty sure. And then I think we faced Oakland maybe, and they got him a little bit. So it's never going to be perfect your first year, but the big step is that spring training the next year, which is in a month, and the first 2-3 months of the season, because that's where you really find out who you are. April baseball is just as important as September, but you gain your confidence in April, May, and June for the playoff push. So I'm looking forward to both of those guys in a full season to play, hopefully with both of them being up with us, because they're really good arms.
All right, a couple non-baseball questions, and then we'll get back to one baseball question. We'll wrap things up tonight. Cody, your wife is just an artist in the kitchen. If you look at Instagram, all the different things she's cooking up, I don't know how you stay in shape, to be honest with you, with everything that she puts out there. What's the best thing she's made this offseason?
Last night she made some homemade ravioli, which was really good. Pasta from scratch, and then some ricotta cheese inside, and that was pretty special.
Do you help at all, or do you just eat?
I'll maybe hold the phone if she needs a different camera angle or something. Okay. I'm tall, so if she needs a tall, that's about it. No.
What's your game in the kitchen, Marcus?
I can survive. I'm not necessarily the cook in the house, but I keep it simple.
Yeah.
We eat pretty healthy. We eat like athletes. My wife played pro sports, and we eat pretty clean. And every once in a while, the kids want pizza or something, but we try and keep it pretty healthy.
Cooking for just you and someone else is probably not as hard as then having to feed, I guess, really 3 others, because baby girl probably not eating the same level.
She is.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah,
4 others,
Yeah.
and I'm sure they don't all love the same things. And but I can't imagine in the Semien household there's a lot of whining, or that you and Tara put up with a lot of whining.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're a little easier than our parents were on us, but you know, we have 4 beautiful children who eat their food, and you know, it's definitely funny seeing who likes what, who doesn't like what, and trying to work around that just to make sure they can get a little bit of food. But back in the day with our parents, it was this is what you're eating, or you're going to bed without eating. So things have changed a little bit.
All right, one of the it really hasn't. It had some momentum and it died, and it doesn't seem like it's happening. But the golden at bat rule that people had talked about, and the ability for a team to once a game put any batter up in any situation, and I don't think that rule will ever materialize as a rule that's used in Major League Baseball. But I was curious y'all's reaction to that when you saw that it had been discussed, and if there is a rule that you think the game would benefit by implementing, either from a pitching standpoint, a hitting standpoint, fielding, whatever it might be.
What do you think?
I don't have answers to questions that big.
Well, I
You're
can
the
tell you,
valedictorian.
I can tell you the golden at bat rule. Who would be hitting for us every time? It's not me. It's Corey. Corey Seager would be our guy, but I don't think this rule would be good for player health and safety if somebody is, you know, I think Nate mentioned it too. Like, you have a guy who's been sitting. He just hit, and then all of a sudden he has to go like out of order and hit and run again, and you know, it's a cool idea, but I don't think the execution necessarily is realistic. I'm more of a traditional guy anyway. I do like the DH in both leagues, but when the league comes to us players with a lot of new things, sometimes it's hard to understand. But we'll see what happens in the next couple of years with any new stuff.
Yeah, and are you still on the executive committee? Yeah, so
Yes.
Marcus will be busy probably the next couple of years with things. Do you miss the no DH? I know the Rangers obviously always in the American League, but interleague play, you don't get to swing the bat at all. You never really got to experience that. Was that a bummer for you, or not really?
I didn't hit in college and hardly hit in high school, so I think every pitcher grew up dreaming, you know, to be the next two-way guy, like the next Shohei Ohtani, but it's probably not a realistic dream.
I mean, I think it's better for the fans to see 9 hitters come up. It's better for our player union to have more jobs available because guys are still going to pitch, but there's more DHs. I played with a guy named Chris Davis in Oakland who was one of the best. He went on one of the best stretches I've ever seen a DH go on, and he led us to the playoffs 3 years. So I love that rule for that reason, but like I said, the game is a beautiful game the way it is. So the more you add, I don't know how people feel about the pitch clock. I know it's a quicker game, but it's an adjustment for players. So, you know, we'll see what happens.
That Chris Davis guy hit a couple home runs against the Rangers, too. I'm not sure if you're aware.
I think he had like a full season's worth in his time in Oakland, but, yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. Well, guys, round of applause, Marcus Semien and Cody Bradford.